All right, welcome back to another episode of Quarter Life Crisis. Today I'm going to be reviewing the second book that I read this year. It's called When. It's by Daniel Pink. Specifically, it's The Scientific Secrets of Perfect Timing. This is about timing in your day, timing in your life, timing in your career and your relationships. It's all about timing, and the book is called When, so it talks about when, basically. Essentially, it's why we do things and when we do them. The book flaunts when to avoid an operating table, what time of day to not do that. Talks about the power of the Nappuccino, which we'll talk about as well. And it all relates to the quarter life crisis. So did you ever wonder when you are most productive or when you should be doing all of the activities you have to do throughout the day? Well, this book does a great job diving into that. It essentially talks about chronotypes. So there's a few different ones. There is the night owl, there is the lark, and there is what we call the third bird, which is just a little bit of both. It makes sense, right? Lark means you're a morning person, night owl means you're a night person, and then third birds, which is a majority of people out there, you're a little bit of both. And it's all based around the time of day. So when you should be doing things based on the morning peak and the afternoon peak. It's the book does a great job with like graphs and all this stuff. Nothing that I'll put in here because copyright probably. But it does a great job explaining the pattern of the day. So if you are a third bird, which is the majority of people, it breaks down what you should be doing at which part of the day. So essentially the morning peak, if you will, in your day, the morning peak should be spent on analytical, logical, focused things that you have to work on. And then the afternoon peak is more about the out of the box, creativity sort of thing that you should be working on. If you're a night owl, you reverse that, right? If you have to wake up in the morning, you should be doing all your creative work in the morning and then focused work in the evening because that's how your brain is triggered. But no matter who you are, the time you should avoid best is the afternoon. So now I'm not talking the afternoon peak heading into the evening. I'm talking about the actual afternoon. It's like the abyss. They call it the trough. So that's when you should be scheduling all of your mindless tasks. Do those in the afternoon. Or as we'll talk about in a second, that's a great time for a Nappuccino. And what's crazy is, there's people out there that are larks and there's people out there that are night owls, but you as a human being, you move through those phases throughout your life as well. When you're a kid and when you are a very, very older adult, you're typically a lark. You're a morning person. When you're a teenager, you're in college, you're naturally a night owl, which means that you need to be sleeping in longer into the day because your brain's not going to start working till later on in the afternoon. And unfortunately, this is why so many teens in high school suffers because we make them start at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning and their brains and their body just naturally are not designed to work that early. I mean, sure, if you're a child or if you're an older adult, that would be great. But teenagers and college kids, they need that sleep and they really need to be doing things later on into the afternoon. The book even talks about when you should be taking breaks throughout the day. And it talks about how as a society, we've moved farther and farther away from breaks, which is a shame because time and time again, we do so many studies that show that breaks truly maximize your productivity. So much so they have it down to a science that if you go hard and you work focused, diligent work for 52 minutes and then take a 17-minute break and just keep repeating that throughout the day, you will literally have the most productive day you possibly can. Even if you were just to do a 5-minute break every hour, break up the day and just do that, you would be amazed at how much better your productivity is. Specifically, if you can find time to be outside during those breaks. Maybe it's a walk around the block. A lot of us are quarantined working at home still. So if you were to take 5 minutes, just walk once around your block or walk once through the woods, your mind and your brain and your entire body will be so productive because of something simple like that. Now let's talk about the one thing we all hated as kids, but we love now, and that's a nap. The book even talks about the perfect nap, which is 15 to 20 minutes. Anything longer than 20 minutes is going to make you really sleepy. But if you can find a way to do an afternoon nap specifically, right when that terrible point of the day, that afternoon trough hits, if you're spending that time sleeping instead, you'll be amazed how much more productive the rest of your day will be because you're spending the worst time of the day physically sleeping and recharging. All right, so let's talk about the Nappuccino. So the way coffee and caffeine works is it takes about 15 to 20 minutes for it to hit your bloodstream. So one of the most productive things you can actually do, and I know it sounds crazy, is you drink a cup of coffee and then go to sleep. And you set your alarm 15, 20 minutes, you take a quick afternoon nap, and when you wake up, not only are you going to be feeling refreshed, but the caffeine's going to hit perfectly, and you are going to be ready to go. And that is what people call a Nappuccino, which not the name I created, but it's an incredible name. All right, so let's talk about how this book relates to the quarter life crisis outside of just determining when you should be doing your work and when you should be living your life and when you should be doing things. It also has to do with the time in your life. Like you think about, the time of your day and the troughs and the peaks and all that stuff. The same thing applies to your actual life. So in 1965, a Canadian psychoanalyst named Elliot Jacques came up with verbiage that everybody here has heard of. And during a paper that they wrote, they came up with the term midlife crisis. And from 1965, when that first hit, that exploded. Everyone used that term. Midlife crisis became the thing. And that has a lot to do with your mortality. You look back at your life and what you've done personally, and you're on the verge of death. People my age, late 20s, early 30s, we're not on the verge of death, but we are now on the verge of dying via relationships and dying via career if we're not doing the things that we should be doing. And that's when the quarter life crisis picks up is, it's not the midlife crisis where you're thinking about, your impending doom. It's, am I going to be doing this for the rest of my life? And am I going to be doing it with these people for the rest of my life? That's the quarter life crisis, and it spans from something that came up in 1965, which is the midlife crisis. I mean, the book is incredible. It goes on to even talks about when to quit your job, like the timing of that. It talks about when to quit your relationship, the timing of that as well. I mean, it even tells you when to work out, when to drink coffee. I mean, when to do everything. It's the science of when. You can't argue science. It's an easy read. It's an impactful read, and if you want to learn more about your body and just your life in general and how everything works through and all the science behind it, I can't think of a better book than this. So stay healthy, stay distanced, and welcome to the Valley of the Sun.